After his latest briefing on the unfolding madness in Afghanistan, President Joe Biden placed the responsibility on ISIS-K for the bombings at Kabul's airport. After Biden acknowledged the U.S. had known the threat was imminent, the White House apparently just sat around and watched things fall to pieces around the airport. James Carafano offered his take on Biden's lack of planning. He writes in a Fox op-ed, after a 90-day intelligence review, his administration still can't figure out if COVID came out of a Chinese lab. But the president is already pretty sure ISIS-K organized the attacks in the Kabul airport. After creating an impossibly unsustainable situation with a chaotic no plan for withdrawal, no plan, he said that he was relying on the advice of military commanders. Biden has still given no indication of any plan to deal with the tsunami of terror that is sure to come. James Carafano is a retired Army lieutenant colonel who's also the VP of National Security and Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation. He joins me to discuss. Jim, good to see you.
Well, I'd like to say it's good to see you, man, but this is really one for the record books. I have never seen this much crisis created this quickly that put Americans this deeply in a hole.
How did it get so bad, Jim? Just take us. How could this be? People have been asking me this, and I just keep saying they truly must have had no idea the entire Afghan army was going to not even lose. They didn't lose. They disintegrated in 11 days. What happened?
Well, I think the reality is look, Trump had a plan, but I think Biden just came in and he just scared himself out of Afghanistan. He was just positive the whole country was going to fall apart. And his notion was, since he was gifting the country to the Taliban, that the Taliban would let the United States leave. And then after they left, things would fall apart. And we would get to say, not our watch, not our problem. And then we would just deal with it. It came afterwards. And you would say, well, this doesn't sound very smart or very reasonable. But when you think about it, this is exactly what they did when they ran away from Iraq and ISIS metastasized. It's exactly what they did with the Syria Red Line, thinking that, they would never get crossed, and it did. It's exactly what they thought in Libya before Benghazi. So when you have exactly the same people put in charge of exactly the same situations, why are we surprised that they made exactly the same decision? This one, however, may be the most consequential because they've literally unleashed global terrorism on the world again, not just by recreating a more powerful terrorist sanctuary in Afghanistan. Because remember, on the anniversary of 9/11, the Taliban will have more territory, more money, more friends, more arms than they did on the first 9/11. But this is a global clarion call worldwide for Islamist terrorists to rise up against the United States. This is a much, much bigger problem, even than Iraq or Syria or Libya, that they've created for us, not for themselves.
People are talking about this as the most egregious foreign policy blunder in recent memory. What would you compare this to? How far back do you think you have to go for a situation that is of this both gravity and incompetence rolled into one?
I would say Chamberlain and the appeasement to Munich and that triggered off World War II, because this has implications not just for a resurgence in the global war on terror, but we've just kind of gifted Afghanistan to China. That's a land bridge to Iran. That's their own economic highway into Western Europe. It's control of all the mineral wealth in Afghanistan. It outflanks India, potentially puts all of South Asia in China's sphere of influence. It's a blow in both global competition and the global war on terror. So it's potentially history shaking. So yeah, I would go back to the outbreak of World War II.
Jim, it's also been reported that the Biden administration, the assessments they're getting from intelligence sources indicate that another attack is not just possible, likely is the term that is coming up today. And people have been asking me about this because I used to assess these kinds of reports back in the CIA and saying, yeah, if I were the bad guys here, Jim, and I wanted to create chaos and I wanted to kill more people, kill more Americans, I would see a continuing soft target. Is there a way to counter that other than just asking the Taliban, which it feels crazy asking you this, Jim, but other than asking the Taliban to do a better job of providing initial perimeter security, what can we do to stop the next massive suicide attack at the airport in the next few days?
Well, something nobody's really talked about is, in some ways, I think the president's partially responsible for this, not just in planning the operation, but this administration had this constant drumbeat saying, we're doing the largest airlift in history. We're doing such a fantastic job. We're doing so amazing. We're working with the Taliban. We are so great that that's like waving a red flag in front of a bull. They're basically baiting a terrorist to attack them because it makes them look even more feckless and weak. So we're well beyond the help of the Taliban or anything. The only thing they can really do at this point is bug out as quickly as possible. The quicker they get those guys out of there, the less likely you're going to have another Custer's Last Stand or Dien Bien Phu.